Okay, so with that, we'll turn it over to Ted, and he's going to talk to you about what his life experience has been and the lessons he's learned, as I said, as he went through the ups and downs of his personal life story.
That was me in October of 2021. And all I was doing was walking up the street, level ground, at a very pedestrian, slower than 3 miles per hour. And I sounded like I was gonna die. This cycle's been going on my entire life. I would gain a huge amount of weight, and I'd discipline myself and lose it all. I'd gain a huge amount of weight, and discipline myself and lose it all. I could discipline myself to lose the weight, but I could never keep it, I could never hold it. It was like I had this monster inside of me that had this insatiable appetite and it needed to be fed, and I couldn't control it no matter what I did. This went on for more than 50 years of my life, battling it every day, and nobody knew about it. They knew about the ups and downs of my weight, but they never knew about the war that was going on inside of me. And this battle was more about who I was going to be that day. When I wake up in the morning, it was like, was I going to be this person over here who is eating healthy and having energy and working on his goals and his dreams, or was I going to be this person over here who would just shove whatever I could into my body as fast as I could, and while watching TV, just like fall asleep in food, or worse, something else. And it was embarrassing and debilitating. There were times I would stay home and I couldn't go out, and there were only 2 ways that I knew of that would give me relief from this daily battle. And I was desperate for relief because I couldn't fight anymore. I was exhausted. I just kept getting beat up. It felt like it. One of the ways I would get relief was just order a whole bunch of food. Problem solved, right? Nothing to fight anymore. Food's coming. It might kill me, but at least the battle is over. Until, of course, the next morning when I wake up and it just smacks me right in the face again. It starts all over. And I used to love to do these juice cleanses. I would go 60 days or more with no food. 60 days or more with nothing but fresh, cold-pressed organic juice. But the problem was I had to start eating at some point. And when I would start to eat at the end, I would say, you know what, this part, just think about what I'm going to say here, because if you miss everything else that I say, just get this one thing. There were these certain foods that were so much a part of who I was. They were so much a part of my identity that they had to be there in my life. I couldn't even have an intention to get rid of them. They had to always be there. So I would say, after my juice cleanses, I'm going to eat healthy for 6 days out of the week. And then one day, just one day, I'm going to give myself what I need. I'm going to give myself these foods I'm addicted to. And it felt like it was working for a while. In the beginning, it felt like I had control. This is working, I'm okay. But what I didn't understand was on that one day, I wasn't feeding me. I was feeding the monster. And the monster, quietly, without me knowing, just kept getting stronger. And then one day a week would turn into 2, and then 2 days a week would turn to 3, and 3 to 4. Before I knew it, I'm back at 7 days a week, really almost 24 hours a day, just ordering food and eating, and I couldn't stop. And it was horrible. It was debilitating, and it was painfully embarrassing. And in these juice cleanses, when I would do my juice cleanses, I used to love to go for these long walks. And I'm talking like I would go like averaging maybe 6 miles a day. That's a lot when you're not taking in a lot of calories, you know? So going on these long walks, I eventually ended up putting on my headphones and listening to audiobooks, you know, because I not music. I had to listen to these audiobooks because I had to figure out how to save myself. So in January to March of 2022, I did another 60-day juice cleanse. And before that, prior to that, for the last 50 years, it was gradually just getting worse. And I knew, I could feel it physically, mentally, emotionally. I could feel it gradually getting worse. And something happened after that juice cleanse. It was like a new level of worse. I would eat until I would throw up. Wash myself off. I'd go to the bathroom. Wash out my mouth. Then I would come back to the table with tears in my eyes and my hands shaking, and I would continue to eat. And I knew I was killing myself. I knew that I was killing myself, and I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. And I desperately needed to live. I wanted to because I had messed up my entire life. I just kept thinking to myself, I cannot die with my kids believing I'm a loser. It was destroying me. And if that wasn't bad enough, the whole going back to the table after throwing, if that wasn't bad enough that night, I go to bed. And every 20, 30, 40 minutes, I jump up out of bed, run to the bathroom, throw up, and come back again. It was almost all night long. And at like 2 o'clock in the morning, in between running to the bathroom and coming back to bed, I'm on my phone, on Uber Eats, ordering Dunkin' Donuts at 2 o'clock in the morning, praying to God that like everyone's sleeping and there's no workers. I'm ordering the food because I cannot stop. But I'm hoping that it doesn't come because I'm afraid I'm gonna die. I know that sounds crazy to people, but what really happens when you're addicted to anything is the body takes over the mind and starts making decisions for you, and you don't have control of it. It just makes the decisions for you. And thankfully, that night, I'm thinking as I'm running back to bed and going back to the bathroom, I told my kids that I was going to redeem myself and I was going to make up for all the things. Oh God, I owe like $2 million to this trust that I told them I'm going to pay it back. Don't worry about it. Even though I can't buy an avocado today, I'm going to pay it back. You know, so that night, thank God, my credit card got declined on Uber Eats because I probably was ordering too much food and I didn't have, thankfully, but eventually I stopped running to the bathroom. But that night, but never stopped doing what I was running to the bathroom for, so I woke up in a mess. But I woke up thinking, I'm alive, I'm still here, I still have a shot. I couldn't give up. I kind of think like, I don't even know how to give up. Like, what do I do if I give up? I can't. I even had a contingency plan for like if I died. That was my mentality. As crazy as it seems, so these videos on YouTube about people who have died and come back, and I was thinking, if I died, I would go to Jesus Christ and say, please don't let this request hurt our relationship, but I have to go back. Please let me go back. I'm not done yet. I can't leave this way. I can't leave with my kids thinking I'm a loser. I can't do it. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I spoke to therapists and psychotherapists, and I tried to play these little tricks on myself. Before all of this, I did play these little games, and they were real to me. I would say, you know, my life depends on this. You know, the life I could have, or the life I would have, if I could just fix this. But I didn't have to play games anymore, because we're talking about my real life now, because I know the progression, and you can imagine what could come after that if it just keeps going in that direction. It can't be good, you know. So I knew that I had to take care of this, I had to fix it. But I had no frame of reference that I had the ability to do this. You know, I started thinking about that phrase, you know, the once an addict, always an addict. I was thinking, if that's really true, I'm already dead. If that's really true, I'm already dead. But I had to believe there was a chance for me. I had to believe this was possible. I mean, I had maybe one or two kind of major successes in my life, but you know, and as miraculous as they may be, and they were, I never completed them. I never completed anything. I ended up failing in the end. They were just temporary. And I thought, never in my life have I really completed anything. I have to complete this, because if I don't, I'm gonna die, and I know that. So I didn't know what else to do, but I realized that when I was doing my juice cleanses, somehow miraculously, when I would get to day 21, and by the way, sometimes it would take me years to get to day 21 because I just kept failing. I believe I actually failed on the first day of a juice cleanse more than 1,000 days in a row and just kept going. But eventually I do get there because I never give up. So when I get to day 21, something happens that changes. It's like before day 21, the slightest invitation of someone to go have something and go somewhere I need, I would bail out, or no invitation. I would just bail out because I had to. But after day 21 on my juice cleanses, if you put a gun to my head, you couldn't stop me. I don't know what that is. I know that people say, you've heard that 21 days is a habit, but I mean, that's pretty dramatic, isn't it? I mean, anyway, so I had to work with that. That's what so I also knew that when I was doing my walks, I could never start walking before day 21 because I would just fail on the first day, like every time. So I had to start after that. And as I said, this time I'm putting on headphones because I'm listening to audiobooks and I don't know how much time I have to live. I don't know. Because if I don't get this right, I don't know. I felt like at that moment that I should have been put like in a straitjacket or in a padded room or something, and I had needed to make phone calls that I could not make. So I desperately needed this day 21. And the experts will tell you, and this is totally true, and I know that they're right. If you have any type of food issue, food addiction or eating disorder, you should never, ever do a water fast or a juice cleanse, because it just increases the desire for more food. It makes it worse. But see, I had this problem, and the problem was I desperately needed that day 21 because I couldn't fight anymore. The battle, I was exhausted. I couldn't fight this monster anymore. So I thought, all right, I don't know what to do, but I gotta keep doing juice cleanses because I gotta get to that day 21 because I would have that clarity. I can think at least for whatever period of time I had. And it was, whatever, if I'm doing a 60-day juice cleanse and I get to day 21, so I have 39 days of clarity. But it was always more than 39 days for me because I knew that if I can't just start like stuffing my face right after not eating for 60 days, I'd end up in a hospital. So it was 45 to 60 days of clarity. I needed that to just figure things out, to be able to learn and figure things out. So I decided I'm going to continue to do juice cleanses because I need to get to day 21. But I can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. So what I was going to do was keep doing juice cleanses, and every time I try and fail, try meaning control this eating disorder, manage this monster inside of me, and fail meaning the monster comes out and runs wild, and I'm a slave to the monster, I have to do whatever the monster says. So every time I try and fail, I have to start over again. But this time, when I fail, I'm gonna go up by 10 days. I'm gonna do another one. I just have to keep doing that. So the next one was gonna be 70, and then 80, and then 90, then 100. And I was gonna keep doing that until I choked the life out of this monster inside of me. Or it chokes the life out of me. So on September 21st, 2022, I embark on a 70-day juice cleanse. And remember I told you that sometimes it takes me years to get started, but I was scared to death, so I got started fairly soon. But I never made it 70 days. And it was not because I had this anxiety attack and ran out and got a cheeseburger. No, it was, I lost the keys to my house, and I couldn't get in, and all my juices were in the freezer. And it was the eve of Thanksgiving. I had to spend the night in a hotel. So the next day was Thanksgiving Day. And I had to go to work. I at the time I was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, being paid minimum wage by the government for doing a job that's like really important for the person you're doing it for, but it's kind of one of those jobs where like, there are things that like no human wants to do. So anyway, on Thanksgiving Day, 2022, I go to work and I don't have my juices. And I order from Uber Eats, I ordered this beautiful plant-based meal. A little comfort plant-based, part of it was a pizza, the dough made from cauliflower, plant-based vegan cheese, and I never made it 70, I didn't get the 70 days I wanted, but it was respectable. I made it 63. So on what would have been day 64 of my 70-day juice cleanse, I was eating this meal at work. And it was beautiful and it tasted great. And I couldn't eat much. I mean, I hadn't eaten in 63 days, so I couldn't eat very much. And the really great foods help, and the healthy, good, great tasting foods, they help. But they're not going to cure me. I know this. In my entire life, I know this. There's something deeper here, and I got to figure out what this deeper thing is. So, I'll tell you, I was listening to audiobooks on my headphones, and at the time, my favorite book was When Good Isn't Good Enough by Ron Willingham. Only they didn't have an audiobook for that book. So, I couldn't find mine, so I had to buy a used physical copy from eBay. And I was reading this book, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I need. It's exactly what I need. The stories are good. They resonate with me. Evidently, they don't seem to resonate with too many other people, but they resonate with me. And it was all about the self-image. And I said, this is it. This is what I need. And so I said, all right, I want to read this book, but I'm going to spend a lot of time walking. I can't waste that time. What other books do I know about the self-image that I can find on Audible or something I can listen to on my headphone? So Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and The Psychology of Winning with Dennis Waitley, and The Mountain Is You, Brianna Weiss. I got all these on my headphones while I was walking. And even David Hume from 300 years ago was talking about the self-image. I didn't get any of his books, but I read some of his stuff online. Abraham Maslow and many other authors. And I took bits and pieces of all these authors and experts, and I built myself a process. Sorry about that. I built myself a process. And I worked this process every day of my life. Not as if my life depended on it, but because it did. And so, in working this process, I wanted to have some skin in the game. Because in reading these books and listening to them, they had great exercises to do, but somehow inherently, I don't know what this is, this kind of intuition, but somehow inherently, I knew it wasn't going to be enough. It wasn't going to be enough to like guarantee I'm going to save my life. So I decided, like, I have to become the best in the world at this. I have to become the Bruce Lee of identity creation. That's what I was thinking. And not so that I can be like this rich and famous, but no, so that I can live, so that I can breathe. That's all I wanted, was to live. So I started thinking about my life and why I was good at some things and not good at other things. And I remember when I was in my early 20s, the engine blew on my car. And the car had a lot of miles on it, so I wasn't just going to get the engine fixed, I had to get a new car. And I don't remember at the time whether I was engaged or about to be engaged, or so anyway, I needed to buy a new car, and at the time it was like, I wanted to get a safe, reliable family car, because I knew eventually I was going to get married. So, at the time it was the early 80s, so it was Honda. I figured, I want to get a Honda Civic hatchback. Like, that was the car that I wanted to get. So, I called the showroom, speak to the salesperson, I come in, they said, we have everything for you, we have the paperwork, we have your car here, it's not an automatic, it's a stick, and, but you can learn how to do that, he says. And it's like, wait a second, no. no, you don't understand. No, I need an automatic. I cannot drive a stick. I don't know, I had this thing in my head, that like the only people who can drive sticks are like mechanics who can rebuild engines, and if I can rebuild an engine, I wouldn't need a car. Or motorcycle riders or race car drivers, and I was none of that. And I had this experience when I was even younger. I was riding my friend's father's motor scooter in their backyard. And I'm riding up to the hedges and trying to stop. But instead of stopping, I ended up giving him more gas. I'm inside the hedges and I'm still going, and it's ripping me apart. My face, my body, I'm bleeding from everywhere. I mean, there's surface scratches. I'm not going to die or anything, but it was traumatic for me. So I said, no, I need an automatic. I said to him, look, I understand sales, no problem. I'll give you the sale here, and you send me to wherever you're going to send me to pick up the car, that's all. And he said, but there's no place to send you. I'm like, it's going to take me 3 months to get you an automatic. He's like, no, I need one now. So anyway, I went on for about an hour. He says to me, come on, Ted, there are old people who come up here that could barely walk and they learn how to drive a stick. Come on, you can do this. And I didn't want to do it, but I felt kind of embarrassed into it. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll give it a shot. Now the dealership was only, at the time, it was only 5 minutes from my house. It took me more than 3 hours to get home. It took me 35 minutes to get out of the parking lot. It was dark already when I got home. But finally, I got it into some gear. It wasn't the right gear because it didn't sound right to me, but I got home. And I get home, and I call my friend and I say, hey, how are you? You want to buy a car? And he says, you mean the car you owned for like 5 minutes? I said, yes, that one. And I said, look, I don't know what it is. It's just me. I don't really understand it. But I can't do it. I tried. I can't do this. And he said, but Ted, I don't understand. I said, what do you mean? He said, you juggle, not just 3, but 5. You ride a unicycle. The seat, not just waist high, but 6 feet high with a chain. You balance steak knives by the point on your nose for extended periods of time. You're an incredible athlete. If anyone in the world can learn how to drive a stick, you got to be able to do this better than anybody. I said, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. I said, let me call you back. So I take the car back out again. And in 15 minutes, I'm a NASCAR driver. It was beautiful, smooth and easy. I was driving a stick like I've been driving a stick for 15 years. But how? How is that even possible? So what did my friend do? What did he do? He reprogrammed what I call my RSI, my robot self-image. And he did it in the perfect way. I don't even know if he knew what he did. See, he wasn't just like some supportive friend who was just trying to encourage me but didn't really believe. No, he told me specifically all the reasons why he knew I could do it. And he also knew that I knew that everything he said was true. So I had to believe him. Changed like that. So what I now call story connections became a part of that process. And it's like an unlimited process. Like I have I think 15 or 20 of them now that I go through. And I use so many of them from so many different angles because I can't rely on just 1 or 2 or 3. I gotta, this is the last shot I got, The failure is just will cost too much, way too much. So I probably started, I started that process, I'm gonna say about day 30 of my juice cleanse. So by the time I was eating that beautiful plant-based meal on what would have been day 64 of my 70-day juice cleanse, I was 33, 34 days in? And after 50 plus years of war within myself every day, battle going on every day, I never looked back. That was it. And I know what you have to be thinking, but this time your life depended on it, so it was different. And I would agree with that, but probably for a different reason than you think. See, I had a coworker once who he had cancer, and he had an operation, and they said that we think we got it all out. We don't really know. We never really know completely, but we think we did. He said, but you have to stop smoking, because if you don't stop smoking, you're not going to be around too long. And he told us all at work that he quit smoking and everything. And I'm outside the building one day, and I see smoke coming out of the side of the building. I didn't think anything of it. Then I see him walking around with a cigarette in his mouth. I'm like, oh God, no. And he sees me and he runs back, and I understand that because I hid this my entire life. No one knew about this from me. And I thought, God, this guy's life depends on him not putting a cigarette in his mouth, and he's still doing it. You see, willpower doesn't cover this. Doesn't matter how strong a willpower you have, it won't cover addiction. You have to change. You have to create a whole new identity and walk right into it. And that's exactly what I did. So I'll tell you how I know what did it for me. The last job I had, there was a White Castle 2 blocks away, and I'm walking by one day after I had completed all this. And I'm walking by and I said, come on, Ted. You love this stuff. And if anyone on God's green earth has earned the right to celebrate just a little bit, it's you. So just go in and have a few. And there's this voice. This is totally true. Inaudible voice. 100% telepathic voice. You cannot hear it, but it is crystal clear. And it rises from here. And it says, but that's not you anymore. So just keep walking. I thought, yes, I got this. I finally did this. I had armored myself. I built an identity of armor, and I was safe. And that voice that said, come on, you love this stuff, I didn't really want it anymore. That was the voice of the past. I really didn't want it anymore. And it was easy for me just to walk by and smile and be like, I'm free. I'm finally free. I'm liberated. I'm out of jail for the first time in my life. And it feels great. Oh, God. I don't know if you know how that feels, but I got to feel that. And just so you guys know, this talk is not about addiction. It's not about an eating disorder. That's just my story. This is about self-mastery and what I've learned from this to create a whole new identity. I believe I know how to create an identity for anyone better than anyone in the world. I believe that because I had to learn how to do it. If I didn't, the price was too high. And it was unacceptable price. So I had to learn. So, and it was a lot of accidental, or I should say serendipitous things here. Because my life depended on it, I had to hit this from so many different angles. And that became one of the keys to this thing. You can't create an identity by doing, taking one or two. You want to create an identity of health? You can't just take one or two or even three actions. It's got to engulf your life. So it becomes who you are, and it becomes you, and that protects you. I like to try and simplify this, although it's a lot more complicated than that, but it's really the difference between have and be. That's really it. You can have even the highest level of self-discipline or self-mastery and still have major addictions. But you cannot. I'm telling you, it's not possible to be self-disciplined or be self-mastery and have any addictions that you're aware of. And I say that you're aware of because sometimes we have addictions we don't even know about, and when we think about it, we become aware of them, and that identity has been created, the identity of self-mastery. It's squashed. You don't have to do anything. You already did what you had to do. You built the identity. It's already done. Whatever the addiction is, just gets squashed. Done. It's gone. It's not there anymore. So a lot of things from this, for me, that I've had, lifelong procrastination about things, don't have them anymore. I didn't have to run the process over again. Some things just came with this. And I've learned so much from this, like so many things about life and about. In this journey, I spoke to this woman. I won't say the organization she's affiliated with, but I spoke to this woman who was 35 years clean, binge eating, 35 years no binging. And I said, wow, that's amazing. You should be commended for that. That's incredible. Whatever you're doing, it works. And she said to me, yes, I know, thank you, but I'm vulnerable. And I know it could be over tomorrow. And I was shocked, really shocked, because I don't really know anything about this. I just know my journey. Because I know it can't be over tomorrow. Not possible. There's no vulnerability in what I do. And the reason, there's reasons for that. It's because of the way it was built. Probably when you go back to it, it was because, my life depended on it. I had to do so many things to figure this out. But the basic structure is, you take actions until they become habits. You maintain the habits until they become an identity. And you know something has become an identity when it becomes harder to not do what used to be impossible to do. Or it becomes harder to do what used to be impossible to not do. Either way. And it's not just taking the actions, it's eliminating them. So you take the actions that support the new identity, and you eliminate the actions that support the addiction. And that's just the beginning of it. And it's what I call in my process the identity code. The identity code is probably the most important of all. That's like the main thing. There are some things that you don't have to do all of them, but that one is like, that's the gold standard. You got to do it. You have, and there are actions that you might not be able to get rid of, because they may have also become addictions. So you go down the list, whatever else you can, and then you keep adding others. You just keep thinking of others to add. And what happens eventually is it closes the gap, and it all gets squashed. Like, how could it be like that magic of like the foods that I was so addicted to? I don't even think about them anymore. And because I was never in my life was I able to go out and have pizza with a friend or cheeseburger with a friend and have it not destroy me for 6 months. I coded into my new identity that I can go out and have fun and have a cheeseburger and go back and eat healthy. And it's fine. There's a process to this, and it's fun and it's easy, and you feel like you have this insane control. So I started thinking to myself, wow, this is really cool. So, what do I want to do next? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Who do I want in my life? And it was like, all right, well, I need to redeem myself. I want to redeem myself in the eyes of my kids. But it's really for me. I mean, I know it's really for me. I just want to feel like I did the best that I could. And so I started thinking, I'm going to study health and find out what's the healthiest things to do, because it used to be that I might not be able to get myself to do the extreme. Now I know I can. And I can make it fun, and I can make it even more pleasurable than not doing it. Because we all think, you all know this, like that 1 o'clock glass of wine, or the 4 o'clock glass of wine that you have, it starts coming at noon, that you have to have. You have to have that. Or the comfort food that you have to have at certain times, or whatever. The only reason we have to have it, I know this, is because it is us. It's a part of us. And we think, there's no way I can ever get rid of this. I need this. This is what I need. But if you create a whole new identity, and you won't need it. You can create it in any way you want. But it is painful to shed one identity and go into another. But that's good. And let me explain to you why it's good. Because once you get there, you're good for life. It's painful to go back. You won't want to go back. So I actually haven't found anybody that doesn't tell me that they're vulnerable, or that that they've created a whole new identity. That I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there are people that maybe some people have fallen into it accidentally by doing a whole bunch of different things, and they don't really understand how they thought it could be done. So that worked out great for me. So I started learning about health, and I started thinking. I found this thing called autophagy. Right? So autophagy is when you have damaged cells in your body, and when you get to this place called autophagy, it reconstructs your cells. Autophagy literally means eating itself. So it throws out, or eats and throws out, the disease cells. So we're talking about cancer, fibromyalgia, heart disease, whatever it is. I mean, you know, asthma, you know, I mean, I had, well, we'll go through that later. So it throws out all those, but to get to autophagy, just to get there for humans, it's 16 to 18 hours of fasting. So 16 to 18 hours of nothing but water. And if you could do that multiple days a week, you know, and then the rest of the week, you know, not so much, you don't have to, but if you can do that multiple days a week, it's amazing. Because if you do, so what I figured, all right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this to an extreme. I'm going to eat all my day's meals in 1 hour. And I'm gonna do intermittent fasting for 23 hours a day. So I would have 5 to 7 hours of autophagy every day. God knows what the damage was. I mean, you heard the recording. I mean, can you tell the difference a little bit? I mean, so, you know, now, you know, to have all of that, I learned that there are no incurable diseases. There are no incurable people. There are only incurable identities, and every identity can be changed. I had 24/7 asthma, all the time, even after my juice cleanses. It was all the time, 24/7 asthma, chronic bronchitis, COPD, vocal cord dysfunction, which is the same symptoms as asthma, only you can't speak. Sleep apnea, wake apnea, narcolepsy from the sleep apnea. I was a mess. It was a mess. There's no asthma anymore. I haven't had a symptom of asthma in over a year now. Not even one. I haven't felt anything. I mean, there's many things that I do to do this, but it's the entire thing together that creates the identity. The entire thing together. And it's the same reason why people are able to go on these, you know, exercise programs and diets and lose weight, but then, you know, back again, they're back to where they were, because that's really who they are. In the health industry, they call it your body set weight. Your body set weight really is your self-image weight. That's really what it is. So I would tell you that whatever you want to do, even overcoming an obstacle, it's the same thing. To overcome an obstacle. How many times have we looked at YouTube videos and said, you know, I'd love to do that. I'd love to try and do that. And you try and do what somebody else does. I've done this myself. Watched videos of athletes and their work ethic and all this stuff, and I'm like, I want to do it, but maybe I'm just not built that way. No, it's like, I can't get over that hump because that's not who I am. But once you understand that and know the process of how to build it, it's beautiful and it's liberating and it's freeing, and you'll even know when you're getting closer, and then you know you can do this. It's really, really amazing and really great, and it feels so good just to be free and to be healthy. And I mean, I was 270 pounds at my heaviest. I'm 148 right now. So, and never did I ever go after a juice cleanse and 3 months later be the same weight that I was after the juice cleanse. I'm 25 pounds lighter, and that was 2 years ago. So, or a year ago, sorry. No, 2 years ago. Yeah, I forget where I am. We're 2024 already. That's right. We're 2024. So, well, I want you to know that, thank God, my life does not depend on this anymore. At least, thank God. But I still fight as if it does, because I know that someone's life does depend on it, and I want to be there. Thank you. Please ask me. You have to have questions. Please ask me questions. Yes.
Well, I think I had more of a comment. I think anybody in this room could relate to that story and something in a behavior or our view of ourselves. And I thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Overcoming the false identity of ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was false. It was, I was like, I don't know who I am at some point, you know? But creating the new one, that was the difference. Because I know that there's a lot of self-image experts in the world, but I thought, you know, are there any identity creation experts? Because when I read the books, they all give me good things to do, but they're not like, you know, I need to do them all. That's how you gotta create an identity. Okay, someone said to me, you know, Ted, I have some emotional eating, can you help me? And I said, of course I can. But the problem is, I want to tell you guys, probably won't work. And I'll tell you why it won't work. Because what you need to do is so extreme. You have to have a little bit more desire than, you know, I have a little emotional eating. Is someone who was like, I have to do this, or I'm not going to make it, or, you know, or I need to get to this place, or my life is over, or whatever. I can help those people very easily. I know more about how to build an identity than anybody. I had to figure it out, or I wouldn't be here right now. People would be spitting on my grave. Because I hurt so many people and I never got a chance to redeem myself, but now I did. And I have this thing on my arm. I wear this. I wear this with me. It's actually a quarterback play calling sleeve. But I have all these people are all the people that didn't believe in me and what they said, and I wrote it down here. I wear them on my sleeve literally all the time. And 3 of them were my daughters. And still 2 of them are. But one of them, before I flew out here in July, calls me the night before I'm gonna leave. She goes, Dad, I wanna come in and take you out for a drink just one more time before you leave. I said, yeah, it's great, that's great. So she comes and we're at the bar and she knows what she said, and it's on here, and she knows that. And we're at the bar, and we're just drinking wine, and I'm telling her, because I have been refraining from telling my kids what I'm doing, because they really didn't want to even hear it. That's how many times I had failed them. I didn't want to hear it anymore. So I'm telling my youngest daughter, who's now 30, and she's looking at this thing on my arm, listening to me, and she says, Dad, F that thing on your arm. I do believe in you. So the day before, am I leaving? The next day, what a great gift to give me. So I asked the bartender for a pen. I ripped the thing out of the sleeve. I cross off what she said previously, and I write in, F that thing on your arm. I do believe in you. Put her name on. So it became a little bit more of a positive thing, you know. So it's, you know, starting to be the people that I'm living with. They're on here in a positive way. So I got a little more of that going on. Anybody else? Come on.
Comment, question?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been a long road and painful. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All right, thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Sorry, another Ollie class.